the last assessment that I did with him is usually referred to as the Beery VMI, simply because the name is really, really hard to say. So the Beery BMI stands for visual motor integration. So this is the ability to use your eyes and your hands and have them work together to both see things and produce things.
Okay.
Richie has handwriting printing challenges. He struggles to write on the line. He struggles with size of print, spacing, those kinds of things. And he's had a fair amount of structured practice at school and printing and forming letters and numbers and these kinds of things. So I wanted to see how much of a problem that was and how much that might contribute to his writing difficulties. So this is an activity where initially he's given a series of symbols and he's just asked to copy them. And then there's criteria about how you mark those. That is developmentally age appropriate.
Okay.
So we know that when children learn to print and write, there's a progression in how their skills develop. And so we're just looking to see if the skills are where they should be or if they're delayed.
Okay.
So it starts off with simple tasks like he'll have a box and there'll be a line in it and draw one like that here.
Okay.
Right? Vertical line, draw one like that here. Cross, draw one like that here. And they get progressively more challenging. His standard score on the visual motor integration was 69, which puts him again in this well below average range. But it has two other subtests that it does. So it looks at now breaking up visual motor integration into visual perception and motor integration. So visual perception is how do my eyes work?
Right.
Can I see the differences between things? Can I see how things are orientated? And so for this task, we use the same symbols that he just used and copied. And he's given a symbol, and below it he has a row of symbols, all of which have some similarity. They may all be essentially the same but different size, for example.
Okay.
And so he's told to show me the one that's exactly the same. So initially he did quite well. He could pick out those that were the same size. But when the shapes became more complicated, he often missed some of the more important elements of the task or of that particular drawing. The first subtest is not timed, but the other two are. He is not told their time, so there's no pressure for him to go quickly.
Okay.
And he did, in the time limit, finish the assessment. But like I said, he often missed, in the more complex things, elements that were important. So, for example, there might be a circle of dots, and there's 8 dots. He's shown circles of dots, but only one is the right size and has 8 dots. He would pick the one that was a circle or as close to a circle as possible, but it would have the wrong number of dots. So there, his visual perception was a little bit stronger, but not significantly. And then the last task is motor coordination. So this is sort of removing that visual piece and just looking at how his brain and his hands work together. So here he's again using the same symbols we've done through the first 2 tests. And only this time we start with some teaching of the task. So he's given a box, and inside the box there's a black dot and a gray dot. And I said, I want you to draw one like this, stay inside the path. So I would draw from the dark to the gray, stay inside the path, and then he has one to do. And so we do a couple of together where I model the task, and then he's given again the same symbols that he's had before, where he's provided with dots, and the instruction is draw the symbol touching of the dots.
Okay.
And the expectation, and staying in the path. So the expectation is that he be able to touch each of the dots. They don't necessarily have to join in between, and that he has to stay within the borders that are provided. He was able to do a few of these, but it didn't take very long before he was wandering outside the path, little bits here and there. He would often have trouble planning how he was going to start the shape, especially when it was no longer a single black dot and a single gray dot. When he had to start following a path, and maybe have several different things that he needed to do. So one of the activities is dots like this, and he's shown outside that it's this shape, which he has seen before. Right? And so he's supposed to be going here, and here, and here, and here, joining those dots.
Right.
And the path looks like this. Right? So it's not too challenging to see sort of what you need to do inside of it. But he would have trouble making sure he joined all the dots. So sometimes he would leave out a dot or two. Sometimes his pencil would veer off, and he would go outside of the path, and then he would have to come back in and redo things. So he struggled quite a bit with this task. Now, overall, given his performance academically, it's not surprising that he would be having some motor challenges that are sort of the same as what he is experiencing academically otherwise. One of the things about this particular assessment is that I did an academic assessment. I just looked at how he was doing academically, and we already knew that he was really struggling academically. The assessment that I have done doesn't explain why. While I looked at things like different aspects of reading, it doesn't tell me why he has trouble sounding out words and why he puts in additional sounds when he gets tired. It doesn't explain those sorts of things. And so this has confirmed what we know about his academic performance and given us some ideas about where he's got weaknesses that we might need to try and address. But overall, based on the things that you told me earlier, Richie's great strengths are sort of social emotional in nature. He has, I observed, a great work ethic and incredible perseverance through all the assessment. His teacher also talks about how hardworking he is in the classroom. Everything that I did with him was quite challenging, and he tried everything I asked. He didn't complain. He didn't ask to stop. He persevered. Relatively speaking, phonetic analysis, which is the understanding that individual sounds make up words, and spelling are the two things that seem to be relative strengths. He was able to read a number of what we call phonetically regular short vowel words, and he was able to spell a number of short words correctly using sound movement. And this, I think, really shows the practice that he's had both at school and that you have done at home with him to try and build those skills. Overall performance that I saw in the assessment supports the classroom teacher's concerns and the concerns that you've expressed about his academic performance. Overall, he is what we would refer to as about 2 standard deviations. So that's this is sort of the average range, and then we have a below average range, and then a well below average range. And he's really falling in that well below to below average range with most of his skills. I found overall in the assessment he had difficulty following verbal instructions. He often asked for clarification. When he tried to sound out words, he would often add additional sounds, carrying them forward from previous words when he attempted to blend. And he hasn't demonstrated that he's mastered math concepts really beyond the grade 1 level.